Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this DVD horror movie review video as part of my current series where I'm taking a look at random horror movies from my DVD collection, ones that I haven't seen before and somewhat related to summer if possible. So we've reached the end of the month, the last one. I did 10 of these, which is amazing for the month of July here. So we are at the 10th and final review for this series, although I'll do another DVD series down the road. I have so many damn movies I have to watch yet that I haven't seen before. Um, so today, I'd like to say we're going to end on a high note, but unfortunately, we're really not. So if you know me, you know I love my horror anthology movies, particularly like summer camping or campfire kind of anthology movies. I reviewed Campfire Tales, both the 91 and the 97 versions. And so I thought I would end this with Campfire Stories from 2001. So yeah, this is another horror anthology, three stories and a wraparound in here. Um, this is very low budget, but yeah, it's not great. It's not great. And I like my horror anthologies, but I'm not going to lie about this one. It's really not great. And it's unfortunate that we're ending this series kind of on a sour note, but what can you do? That's how it goes sometimes. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Campfire Stories is a 2001 American horror anthology movie, um, directed directed by three different directors: Bob Kia or Bob Sia, um, Andris Andris Karowski, and Jeff Mazzola. Probably butchered those names, but written by Don Oriolo, Bob Sia or Kia, and based on the comic book series, which isn't really a comic book series. There was one issue of this sort of comic book series known as Campfire Stories, and that's kind of what this movie's based on. So basically the movie's about two teens that are on their way to a backwoods party. They come across a beautiful young woman having car trouble. Their search for help only gets them lost deep into the woods, where they meet forest ranger Bill with a penchant for scary stories. The campfire flickers long into the night as the ranger uses words to weave his tapestry of terror, filling their young minds with a host of horrific images that will be burned into their consciousnesses long after the fire's last embers have gone out. Insane doctors, Indian ghosts, bad drugs, a deranged handyman with shining new shears. All that and more awaits anyone brave enough to stay until sunrise, if you live that long. Unfortunately, the premise and that tagline, there's a lot more interesting than the movie is. The movie's a bit of a mess, I'm afraid. As far as the cast goes, we have Jamie Lynn Sigler as Natalie, John Hensley as Donnie, Abigail Spencer as Melissa, Joshua Hardo as Teddy, Charlie Day as Joe, and David Johansen as Ranger Bill. That's not all the cast, of course, just as much as I wanted to put down, frankly. So, yeah, I try to always find the best in every horror anthology movie that I watch, but this one's tough. My review is actually going to be pretty short for this one because I just don't really have that much to say about it. I really don't. But if you've seen Campfire Stories from 2001, you know that it's a very low budget, some parts shot on video, or at least look like they're shot on video, low quality. Um, yeah, and sometimes that's okay. Sometimes those movies are like hidden gems, but sometimes they're just bad, and that's the case of this one. So, starting with the pros or the things I liked about this movie, this will be short. I like the premise of the wraparound story with the being out in the woods around a campfire setting, telling scary stories. I always enjoy that as a horror anthology sort of wraparound or framing story, if you will. I think it works very well for the narrative. We kind of had something similar in a another horror anthology that I reviewed even earlier in this series, and that's um, what do you call it? The Willies. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Yeah, the Willies. So I do like that narrative. I do like that anthology narrative. I think it lends itself pretty well to telling individual scary stories. And this one does have that. Now, how they get there isn't necessarily the best way, but I buy it. I'll buy that part about it, how they meet this ranger in the woods, and the stories are told that way. So that was one of the better things of the movie, which really doesn't say a whole lot. I did kind of like the two ending twists of the movie that we get within the wraparound. The first one a little bit less so. That one made a little bit less sense to me, but it kind of brings everything full circle and summarizes the movie pretty nicely. Um, and I've seen other horror anthology movies that kind of do this, where basically they take the characters from these individual stories and they come face to face with the characters within the wraparound story, kind of bringing it all together. Campfire Tales from '97 kind of does that. Chillers, which is a low budget movie from the '80s, does that. So there's other ones that have done it. So I didn't mind that. But I thought the second twist was even more interesting, having to do with the character of Jamie Lynn Sigler. Um, so I liked those okay. I thought they were kind of creepy and interesting. The movie's just about an hour and a half, so it's not too long. It's not drawn out. Three stories is definitely the right amount for this movie. I definitely wouldn't want any more. My favorite story is probably most of the third one until you get to like the ending, which makes absolutely no fucking sense. Um, the story, the best ending to a story is probably the second story about the Indian and the drugs. I'll just leave it at that. But the rest of the story before that isn't very good. So yeah, you kind of have a hard time taking these three separate stories and making one coherent story out of it. But that's kind of what you have to do to get close to it, is by combining the end of one story with the middle and beginning of another story. And yeah, I don't know. The third story did have a couple of nice looking females in it. I'll say that for sort of a shallow pro, I guess. The two female characters were pretty nice to look at as they were dressed to the nines in that story. But they couldn't act. Nobody could really act in this movie. I'll get into that with my cons, which is going to start right now. None of the individual stories they're just not that good or that interesting, if I'm being honest. They have bad acting, bad writing, and bad filming for the most part, with no real satisfying conclusions or themes in any of them. So that's disappointing. There's some god awful, really bad looking CGI in this movie, right from the jump too. They have this bad looking CGI skull that comes on screen. That's kind of like the Crypt Keeper. That's got this low, trying to be creepy voice, and the CGI is so bad with that. And then you get more bad CGI, especially in the second story when these characters are tripping out on drugs, basically. And oh god, it's so bad. It's that really bad late '90s, early 2000s CGI that just ages the absolute worst. And then even all the way to the end of the last shot of the whole movie, where a character's eyes are become CGI, and it's like, why? It's so bad. I just don't get it. It's terrible. None of the characters in any of these stories or the wraparound story are interesting or have anything about them that we as a viewer would root for. They're all paper thin, badly written, cliched characters that are basically just there to be killed or get their just desserts, if you will. Yeah, I don't have much to say. Overall, it's just a really bad, low budget anthology that looks bad, that has no solid story or narrative, and just leaves the viewer mad after they watch it. That's really the best way to sum up Campfire Stories from 2001. I was really disappointed. And I have to say, I think I rented this like 20 years ago or so. Once again, when I was going through my phase of a couple years there from like 99 to '02 or something, where I was going to the video store and renting movies. And I think I did rent this one. I remember seeing some of it like the beginning, and I remember the Ranger, but I don't know if I got all the way through it. Maybe I turned it off. Maybe I was smarter in my younger age than I am in my older age. I did watch it all the way through this time, and yeah, it's just not very good. So I only paid a buck or two for it through eBay, if I'm honest, which I would say that I probably still got ripped off. But I can live with that. I'm glad I didn't pay 10 or 15 bucks for this atrocity, though. So I don't know if anybody else has seen it. Maybe there's people out there that like this anthology story. If there are and you're watch this video, please comment down below what they are. Besides the couple that I mentioned there, I'm gonna give this movie I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 10. I'm not really sure why. You have some interesting actors and actresses in this movie, ones that would go on to bigger and better things, like Jamie Lynn Sigler. Obviously, was part of The Sopranos. Charlie Day. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So there's some interesting things there, and I think that's really the only reason a lot of people talk about this movie online. Um, so if you like it, comment down below. But I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10, I guess, for those reasons. For the wraparound, at least getting into it anyway, and a little bit of the twist at the end. But that gets it 4 stars out of 10. Not very good though. So, like I said, comment down below what you guys think of Campfire Stories from 2001. If you've seen it, your thoughts on it. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And please be sure to subscribe to my channel down below so you don't miss any of my upcoming horror content that I have coming up, including the next series. I'll be dropping an intro video for that probably tomorrow, to be honest with you. That'll be introducing my August horror series. So hopefully you guys will like that and what comes beyond. So thank you for watching this series. I really hope you enjoyed it. It was good to get 10 DVD movies in my collection that I either haven't seen for a couple of decades. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed this review, even though it was kind of a bad movie review. But I hope everybody's doing well, having a good summer, staying sunburn free, as I have been so far. But I hope everybody's doing well otherwise, and stay scared. Bye.